Imagine being stuck in the middle of nowhere. No phone, no food, no way to call for help. Now imagine that nowhere is Antarctica, the coldest, most dangerous place on Earth. The temperature is -50 degrees. It's pitch black for weeks at a time. And the ocean around you is frozen solid. That's exactly where 27 men found themselves in 1915. And somehow, every single one of them made it home alive. This is the story of Ernest Shackleton. And it's the greatest survival story in human history. Ernest Shackleton was a British explorer who had one massive dream: to walk across the entire continent of Antarctica. Nobody had ever done it before. It was dangerous. It was nearly impossible. He didn't care. In 1914, he put together a crew of 27 men, boarded a ship called the Endurance, and sailed toward the bottom of the world. These men knew the journey was risky. They went anyway. Just a few weeks into the mission, disaster struck. The ocean around them began to freeze. The ice crept in from every direction, slowly at first, then all at once, and locked the ship completely in place. They were stuck, trapped inside a frozen sea, over 1,000 miles from the nearest town. For 10 whole months, they lived on that ship. They played cards, they sang songs, they exercised on the ice. Shackleton made sure everyone stayed busy, because he knew that boredom and fear were just as dangerous as the cold. But the ice had other plans. The frozen ocean began crushing the Endurance like a giant fist squeezing a tin can. The wood cracked, water poured in, and Shackleton gave the hardest order of his life: abandon ship. The men grabbed what they could: 3 small wooden lifeboats, some food, sleeping bags, and jumped onto the ice. Then they watched their ship slowly sink beneath the frozen sea. Their home, their only way back, gone forever. 27 men, standing on floating ice in Antarctica, with 3 tiny boats and zero hope of rescue. The survival begins. Shackleton refused to panic. He kept his men moving, kept them focused, kept them believing they would survive. When the ice finally began breaking apart, they lowered the 3 boats into the freezing ocean and started rowing. For 7 brutal days, they battled waves the size of buildings, freezing spray, and temperatures cold enough to freeze their clothes solid. They barely slept, they barely ate, but they kept rowing. And then, land, a tiny, remote island called Elephant Island. For the first time in nearly 500 days, they stood on solid ground. Some men cried, some just stared at the rocks beneath their feet, unable to believe it was real. But Elephant Island was uninhabited. No one lived there. No ships passed by. If they stayed, they would die. So Shackleton made a decision that sounds completely insane. He took the biggest of the 3 tiny boats, just 22 feet long, and announced he was sailing 800 miles across the most dangerous ocean on Earth to find help. 800 miles, in a wooden rowboat, through storms with waves 10 stories high. 16 days later, frostbitten, dehydrated, and barely alive, Shackleton and his 5 crew members spotted land. They had made it to South Georgia Island, where a small rescue station was located. They had crossed one of the most dangerous stretches of ocean in the world in a tiny wooden boat, and they were alive. No one left behind, but 22 men were still waiting back on Elephant Island. Shackleton tried 4 times to reach them. Ice and storms pushed him back. On the 4th attempt, he finally broke through. As the rescue ship approached the shore, he stood at the front and counted the men on the beach, one by one. All 22 of them, still alive. Not a single person had died. In 634 days of the most extreme survival situation imaginable. Not one man lost. Ernest Shackleton didn't have GPS. He didn't have a satellite phone. He didn't have modern equipment. What he had was one simple rule. Nobody gets left behind. And that rule saved 27 lives. So the next time something feels impossible, remember that 27 men once survived nearly 2 years in Antarctica with 3 wooden boats and sheer determination. If they could do that, what are you capable of? Difficulties are just things to overcome.